What made Latrell Sprewell special was how ferocious and energetic he always played, how good of an improviser he was with the ball in his hands, how in control and explosive he was in the open floor, and how tenacious of a defender he was. He was one of the best at hanging in the air a bit and double pumping to avoid rim obstruction when attacking the basket. There were acrobatic aspects to his offensive presentation, and I think especially in that era, it really attracted younger fans who liked some of that razzle-dazzle. But unique about him was that he was able to mix his craftiness and cleverness with his supreme athleticism. He had that blend of blow-by speed, improvisation, and hang time that, at least in stretches, made him one of the most electrifying players in the league in the 90s and for a portion of the early 2000s. And these clips really highlight that. His signature was his two-handed tomahawk dunk, which we would see a lot when he got a full head of steam in the open floor. Back then, some called this a back scratcher dunk, as Sprewell would bring the ball pretty far back behind his head before flushing it home. As these clips emphasize, he was exciting to watch in transition. With Don Nelson as the head coach, Golden State ranked in the top 5 in pace with Sprewell his first few years in the league. They were number 1 in that category in the 1994-95 season. For a backcourt player, he was a pretty good finisher around the basket. Between 1996 and 2000, for example, he shot 58.4% from no further than 5 feet out. Only 39% of those shots from that range in this time frame were assisted, so he was self-creating more often than not. And he had a very quick first step, often beating his man off the dribble with that burst and then improvising in the paint with a crowd around him. He was also great at completing N1s. He was strong and willing to take the contact, especially during his Warriors days. In 1996-97, he accumulated 54 N1s. That was 9 more than Michael Jordan had that year, 17 more than Reggie Miller, and 36 more than Eddie Jones, just as examples. Now, he was a very streaky jump shooter. Between 1996 and 2003, for example, he took 1,097 shots between 12 and 16 feet out, but he made just 39.8% of them. Of the 27 players who took at least 800 shots between this range during this time, that percentage ranked 17th. Glenn Robinson ranked number 1 in percentage in this period, and Allen Iverson ranked last. From 15 to 20 feet out during this same time frame, he took 1,634 shots and made just 37.7% of them. Of the 25 players who took at least 1,500 shots between this range in this time, that percentage ranked 22nd. Once again, Robinson ranked number 1 and Jerry Stackhouse ranked last. Sprewell's New York teammate Allen Houston ranked number 2 from this range. Sprewell nonetheless had so much variety in his repertoire. Sometimes he'd pull up in transition for jumpers. He was good out of the post, occasionally hitting these little followays. And then he was pretty smooth stepping into shots out of the pick and roll. He had a nice floater too. Sprewell was also erratic from three-point range. The most threes he attempted in a season was 415, which came in 1996-97, and that was 15th most in the league that year. His best three-point percentage in a single year was 37.2%, which was in 2002-03. Interesting though is that his worst three-point shooting season was in 1999 when he shot 27.3% in the shortened regular season and then just 16% in the playoffs that year, despite New York making it all the way to the finals. He made several clutch shots in his career, including this game-winning corner three-pointer against the Atlanta Hawks on January 19, 1994. This game-tying three-pointer off a wild sequence against the Milwaukee Bucks on November 8, 1999, in a game New York would go on to win in overtime. This winning jumper in the lane over Vince Carter in Game 2 of New York's first-round playoff series against the Toronto Raptors in 2000. And this winning floater against the Boston Celtics on March 6, 2005. Underrated about Sprewell was his passing. The most assists he averaged in a season was 6.3, which was in 96-97. Rick Adelman, Golden State's head coach that season, had him orchestrate the offense a lot. Turnovers were an issue for him that year, however, as he averaged 4 of them per contest. And then he was one of the tougher defenders during that era. In his second NBA season, he made the All-Defensive second team. 2 years later, he finished 8th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He pickpocketed opponents quite a bit, which led to easy transition dunks. And then he was also very good at jumping the passing lanes and getting steals that way. His second year in the league, he had 180 steals, which were 8th most that season. He just always played his heart out, which made it tough for opponents to get comfortable against him. All in all, Sprewell was a 4-time NBA All-Star. In just his second NBA season, he made the All-NBA first team. Since 1980, there have only been 6 players to make the All-NBA first team in their first or second NBA season. The list includes Larry Bird, David Robinson, Sprewell, Penny Hardaway, Tim Duncan, and Luka Doncic. Sprewell was with the Warriors for 6 seasons, then 5 with the Knicks before ending his career with the Timberwolves for 2 years. So that'll wrap up this video. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe.